This last video is going to be really short. Just going to be looking at doing some operations with imaginary numbers. In other words, looking at adding and subtracting them and sort of seeing what happens. So this first one's kind of a fun one. I'd like us to simplify the expression 1 plus I squared plus I cubed. Right? So what could we do to simplify this? Right? What we noticed in the previous videos was that anytime we have a power of I, we can simplify it down to being something a little bit more basic. Right? So in particular, we remember that I squared is equal to negative 1. We remember that I cubed is equal to negative I, and it doesn't look like it's going to show up in this problem, but I to the fourth is positive 1. So if you have an expression like 1 plus I squared plus I cubed, we could sort of simplify this by saying, well, I know what 1 is. I know what I is, it's the imaginary number. I know what I squared is, it's negative 1. And I know what I cubed is, it's negative I. Right? We could then look at this and say, well, the imaginary number and the real numbers don't really play nicely together. But the real numbers could be combined, and the imaginary numbers could be combined. If I put together the 1 with the negative 1, if I do 1 plus negative 1, I'll get 0. Plus, if I put together positive I plus negative I, that'll give me another plus 0. I suppose it could be 0 I, because we don't have any i's. But we effectively have 0 plus 0, which means this is 0. This expression, 1 plus I squared plus I cubed, simplifies down to 0, because when we combine the real parts, we get 0. When we combine the imaginary parts, we also get 0. So the simplification here is 0. I've got one more here for you to try. I want to simplify the expression 12 minus 13I plus 5I squared. So I'd like you to pause the video for a minute, think about what you could do to simplify this. Hopefully the thing that you focused your attention on was this I squared here at the end. We remember that I squared is equal to negative 1, and it's equal to negative 1 by definition. Remember that I is the square root of negative 1. It is the thing that when you square it gives you negative 1. Like, that's the whole point of I. That's the whole deal. Right? So how can we simplify this expression? Well, we'll leave the 12 alone. We'll leave the 13I alone. And then we'll have minus 5 times, well, I squared is negative 1. This gives me 12 minus 13I plus 5. Now again, we know that we can't combine the real numbers with the imaginary number, but we could put the two real numbers together. 12 plus 5 is 17 minus 13I, and this number is the same as this initial expression.